Right Side News, bring you the right news for the right side. I'm Jim Hoel, and I am your voice. Thank you and good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Hoel Report. Tonight we have a lot to get into, and once again, the Democrat Party is yelling from the mountaintops and is back at their violent impeachment fanaticism. These radicals in a party that I now view as a rogue element of our government have taken on this role of obstructionists, and now a good majority of them are violent radical impeachment fanatics. We had Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Here, I wrote it. Here, I got it in my notes right here. She said that Democrat lawmaker Rashida Tlaib, we're going to go in and impeach the motherfucker. This came from a Democrat lawmaker, Rashida Tlaib. Apparently said that she was going to go in and impeach the motherfucker. So that's what the Democrat Party is up to right now. They're up to obstruction, impeachment fanaticism, and they want nothing more than to sabotage this presidency and bring down this president. We have the same cast of characters, all of them, who have been doing this from day one. You got this Rashida Tlaib, Maxine Waters, Keith Ellison, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. You know, all of this impeach 45, and the President of the United States needs to be impeached, and, you know, it sounds like a broken record. It's like the Russian collusion. If they could name, I would love to hear from any one of those people specifically what he has done that is worthy of impeachment. If they could tell me, you know, if any of these lawmakers, Rashida, Maxine Waters, Keith Ellison, if any of them could tell me, and tell the American people what he has done that is worthy of impeachment, then I might listen to it. But right now, all it is violent, radical impeachment fanaticism. And it's really, really out of hand. It for one thing, it's divisive. It emboldens the far left hate groups and terrorist organizations like Antifa, get them all riled up, telling all these stories of impeachment and their dreams of impeaching the 45th President of the United States. Well, you know, that is actually that's their playbook right now. Good friend of mine, Bill Belichick, he knows some people. I was actually able to get a hold of the DNC playbook, and I have it right here. I was able to get a copy of the DNC playbook thanks to some friends of mine in the Patriots organization. The DNC playbook. Number 1, kill immigration reform in the wall. Number 2, impeach 45. So number 2 is impeach the president. Number 3, use foreign invaders to flood across our borders as a voter drive for the DNC. And finally, abolish the Electoral College. That is the DNC playbook. So they want to kill immigration reform in the wall, impeach the President of the United States, flood our borders with illegal immigrants, using them as a voter drive, and then they want to abolish the Electoral College, which by the way, would be unconstitutional. I mean, you know, what they're advocating is that, well, everything they're advocating is unconstitutional. You know, they're the ones, you want to talk about impeachment, you know, they're the ones who are worthy of impeachment. for what they're advocating, which is really not only careless and irresponsible, but it is damaging to the American people as a whole, to fracture and divide and spew this hateful rhetoric that they do. I mean, it is un-American. What these Democrats are doing is un-American. Talking about impeaching a duly elected president of the United States just for the hell of it, pretty much. They have no reason. I have yet to hear one good excuse as to why he should be impeached. You know, there is nothing he has done that is worthy of impeachment. The Russian collusion narrative, and I think people are now just kind of starting to, you know, by now, hopefully they're realizing that, okay, there's nothing to this, because there's not. So instead of that, they're just going to go ahead and try to impeach him anyway, I suppose, and, you know, impeach him and flood the borders with illegals, abolish the, you know, trying to abolish the Electoral College. It's all a bunch of BS, and it's all coming from a party, the Democrat Party, which is now, I believe, a rogue element of our government and should not be taken seriously anymore. I mean, they should be labeled, the Democrat Party and the DNC should be labeled a terrorist organization for what they're doing to this country. I mean, my God. Impeaching the president, killing immigration reform, no border wall. You know, the government is still shut down. They're dragging this thing out, and it's beyond anything this country has ever seen. And now with the copy of the DNC playbook, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So, you know, right, that's what's going on, folks. That's exactly what's going on. We have a rogue element of our government that is doing everything in its power to try to sabotage the president. So that's what's going on. Anyway, moving on. Tonight I'd also like to cover a story from Right Side News, from the Right Side News webpage, on shadowbanning. Many of you may wonder what shadow banning is, so tonight we're going to get into that. This article is by Todd Littman. We thank him for sharing this editorial with us. Shadow ban, question mark. It's a question because it doesn't make sense. And it really doesn't. To me, shadow banning doesn't make much sense at all, but a corporation, its purpose is to act according to a charter. So the purpose of a corporation is to act according to a charter, thereby avoiding any personal bias and limiting the personal liability of those who are invested and employees acting according to that charter. Corporations register with the Secretary of State of a state, and in most cases are located in Delaware due to it being the most secure regarding secrecy. I say secrecy because a corporation, though treated as a person for tax purposes, is not a person. It is not alive. It is a dead entity, or a corpse without the E pronounced, unlike the military use of the term, apparently. Incorporation in the U.S. is an act of agreement to the laws of the United States by the mere intention of incorporation alone, affirmed by the terms and documents of the incorporation. When a corporation acts in a personal manner and inconsistent with its charter, that's when it can accrue liability against directors, executives, and investors. For example, using social media, say a company is claimed as CEO Jack Dorsey of Twitter said, left-leaning, which that's an understatement. Legally, that's only possible when registered as a political organization. Otherwise, left-leaning is inconsistent with the entire existence of a corporation. A corporation can have ethics, hopefully they do, Ethics are a method of calculation in relation to risk where decisions are entirely based upon what is in the best interest of the corporation. And that is how corporations have no bias and afford protection and from personal liability. After Ford Pintos were exploding from rear-end collisions, a memo that I can't even find an image of, which said it's cheaper to let them burn, featuring a cost-benefit analysis using the ethical standard. This memo made it into court cases. As one searches the web, they can see Ford suffered greatly in the court system and had to afford the lives of those affected by Pintos that had exploded in a crash, settlement or monthly payments until the age of 65. A friend of mine who had been disfigured and unable to work due to surviving a Pinto explosion, with around 90% of his body with third-degree burns. Penetration of the corporate veil is what occurred due to a publicly traded company ignoring its duty to uphold the laws of the United States and the state in the corporation's ethical decision versus assume the corporation's responsibility to public safety is paramount and act accordingly. That analysis is here. There's a link to it. We'll post that. Incorporation is a privilege to use the incorporation laws of the state and of the United States to protect from personal liability so long as you aren't placing that liability on the government's shoulders. I'm pretty sure that Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEOs of Alphabet / Google, Google+, Google's YouTube, and any social media organization and their networks are well aware of this general legal knowledge and understanding, which is what begs the question: a shadowban, a term used to sum up the suppression of some users on social media platforms, but not others, or even to suppress and change search engine results, as Google search appears to be doing. And they've been caught doing this before. During the election, they were caught doing it. Withholding Donald Trump's search results and propping up Hillary Clinton, and I mean, it's all been noted. It's all out there. So they've done it many times. The kicker is that these same left-leaning social media corporations appear to be just like their progressive cohorts in the mainstream media. Banking, investment, and the insurance industries, where 80%, that's 80% of their executives donate to the Democrat Party. So 80% of the executives of all these corporations donate to the Democrats. They're also make a sincere and serious effort to prove Karl Marx right. Karl Marx, apparently they want to prove him right. What else would explain why they have assumed that just all numbers, which is par for the left-leaning course, but that we are viewed and our accounts are treated like data assets and data points to be manipulated by the corporate policies of these social media platforms, who shadow ban one group of people and do not do it to another. Of course, social media corporations claim their claim is an algorithm or AI, program simulated intelligence, is causing these bans, asserting that these aren't conscious decisions or policies by employees, but are objective acts by impersonal machines and their computer codes. That shadow bans are to be treated as an act of nature or an act of God, harmless and as though no one can do anything about it. Well, I'll tell you right now, that's a bunch of BS. Social media corporations think they're protected by this. This sets up their last-ditch views so they don't fess up and instead assert the plausible deniability for their acts of suppression and carrying on a political ideological segregation. The real purpose of shadow banning, other than publicity by controversy, appears to tailor to a dataset that can be used to construct an erroneous survey, tallying users as numbers to represent a falsehood, and using social media corporation policies to claim those who are banned are more violent, mentally ill, or racist. Thus, shadow bans can portray an air of legitimacy as the dataset for some extremist progressive groups, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, to put together a fake news analysis. Of course, this analysis is sold to the public with the goal of dividing us on the most sacred principle, the principle of freedom, the principle of freedom of speech. And this is what I've been talking about with all of this, the conservative purge that's still going on. It violates the freedom of speech. This is a rinse and repeat of old media methods used to control us, coloring results with numbers don't lie, claims in a propaganda promotion. The claim in its propaganda is that it's an algorithm or AI is a complete lie. And all of these companies fail to mention the fact that algorithms use data sets of words or massage calculations that is all subject to the bias of their authors. To social media corporations, users are pawns in a game of statistics, where social media corporations are the scorekeeper, the umpire, the record taker, and regarding to the teams. They're the judge, jury, and executioner of your social media existence when shadow banned. Dorsey mentioned in a recent interview with Brian Stelter that Twitter isn't acting on ideology but behavior. In light of how one's ideology can affect their knowledge, perception, and action upon what is right and wrong to them, where one ideology could feature a graphic of how to kill an ICE agent, but after numerous complaints against the user tweeting the graphic out, their account isn't suspended, and nothing is done about their tweet or the graphic. Yet another Twitter user of the opposite ideology had a mother in a tweet conversation with a user admitting to pedophilia. And I talked about this before. There's all sorts of that shit on Twitter. Admitting to pedophilia, who says around 8 to 10 years old is okay to have sex with an adult. Apparently this, Apparently the mother replied, "You come near my child and I'll kill you." It turns out that she was thereafter suspended on the grounds of violating Twitter's policy, a Twitter policy for threatening the life of a pedophile. So apparently we had a mother who got suspended for threatening the life of a pedophile who said 8 to 10 years old is the appropriate age to have sex with the child. Child molesters. And that's, once again, that is who Twitter is defending. Not people who share graphics on how to kill ICE agents or cops, or for that matter, the constant death threats to the President of the United States, which are all over Twitter all the time. And the thing is, they don't wind up getting banned. Their tweets they're not shadow banned or banned, and their tweets are oftentimes, it takes days for them to do anything about it. Well, you got people tweeting out death threats to the President of the United States and his family, and they don't get banned. And it doesn't make any sense. So, we have that going on. Sorry, folks. Thing went dark on me here. So, Twitter, not even caring about the threat that the pedophile made to children, who was not banned, and it turned out that the one who threatened the pedophile was banned. The blatant lack of an algorithm's ability, while exacerbated by an epic failure of left-leaning social media corporation employees to recognize right and wrong, is so obvious by these examples, it admits with little doubt that behavior is entirely subjective to ideology. Dorsey's statement shows a disconnect to his and maybe several social media corporations' ability to address this Shadowban issue. Freedom for every user to express their political beliefs appears to be a blind spot for social media platforms. In accepting and favoring a subjective ideology, their policies void of the arm's length rule to assure all liability is contained in the corporation, separated from personal beliefs and actions of investors and employees. Whether Dorsey's statement is an egregious intentional fraud or not, I do not know. But it is clear that Jack Dorsey has admitted his incompetence to address shadow banning. Dorsey's statement demonstrates at least an inability, if not an unwillingness, to appreciate, connect, and understand how ideology affects and what it does as whether it's appropriate or inappropriate, and thereby he cannot see how ideology taints the data sets and algorithms, which do not comprehend objective corporate governance, data sets, policies, except to the extent that their authors do. Sad to say, I am not surprised at the outcome from these echo chambers of the left-leaning social media corporations. What's worse is that it's an admission of a subjective policy inconsistent with being available objectively to the public at large. If Twitter really is this left-leaning, that the objective goal of their social media corporate policies is to silence all opposing views, Twitter should be registered as a progressive political organization. This is like the video I did before. If they want to make it all Democrats, then put a disclaimer on there. I mean, it's like I said, if Twitter or Facebook or any of these social media platforms, if they want to make it, don't lie. Just come out and put a disclaimer saying that it's for Democrats only. And it says it right here. Twitter should be registered as a progressive political organization. But see, the problem with that is users would be absolutely protected by the regime of law governing political organizations, and it protects opposing political speech. So, do you see the legal sleight of hand? I'm not sure Dorsey is a lawyer, so not putting that on him. However, that's what we have. So, we have social media platforms, a conservative purge going on. It all gets blamed on algorithms, treated as an act of God when someone's banned or shadow banned. When really all it is their want and need to silence people who have opposing views. All the while, pedophilia and child molesters and people who make death threats to the president are all allowed to stay on Twitter and keep tweeting this shit. So that's what's going on in the world, and that's what's going on with social media right now. And it's not good. It's not going well for them, and the only way it's going to change is if we speak out about it. So, anyway, Todd Littman closes by saying, God bless you and thank you for reading and sharing this. Todd, we thank you. So, that's about all the time we have for tonight. Once again, I thank you for joining us. Please like, follow, add, and share. Facebook, Twitter, our webpage, rightside.news.com. YouTube channel, Rightside News. Follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @JHHoel, as in the Whole Report. For Rightside News and for the Whole Report, I'm Jim Hoel. I am your voice. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you, and good night.